Hi, welcome everyone to our webinar this evening. We'll just let everybody join us there for the next minute or so. Just to let you know, this webinar will be recorded and we will send a copy of it to you after the event this evening. So we will record the webinar. Just to let you know, questions at the end that are in the chat won't appear on the recording in case you want to ask a question, but you don't want to have your question on the webinar. So please feel free to ask the questions a little bit later on when we come to that section. So just to introduce myself, my name is Linda Young and I'm the Senior Manager for CAO Recruitment at TU Dublin. I'm joined by Orla McDonough. Orla is the Dean of Arts and Humanities at TU Dublin. So welcome, Orla. I'm also joined by Paul Jackson. Paul is also working in the area of arts and humanities, and we have Hugh on there as well, Hugh McAtamney, and Hugh is also working in the area of arts and humanities. So welcome to you guys. I also have David Mannion from my team on here this evening. So we will be allowing people to ask questions, and you can ask your questions through the chat function, but we won't turn that on till a little bit later. But we will put a little note into the chat to let you know that it's open, and that will be after we've done all of the presenting. And we welcome questions because this is an exciting new venture for TU Dublin. So we want to hear everything that you need to ask us. So without further ado, then we'll get going on the presentation. I'm going to give you a brief overview of TU Dublin to start off with. So let me grab the presentation there. Okay, so this is just how we'll work this evening. We've done a quick welcome there, an introduction. I'm going to give you TU Dublin, a starting point, an overview of TU Dublin. Then we're going to talk about our new arts programme at TU Dublin. And then, of course, at the end, we'll do a quick Q&A just to make sure that all your questions are answered. So just then a little bit about TU Dublin itself at a glance. So just in case you're unfamiliar with TU Dublin is a technological university established in 2019. We're the largest technological university in Ireland, and we offer a wide range of courses and disciplines with pathways to higher certificate, ordinary degree, and honours bachelor's degree, and then onwards, of course, to postgraduate. So I know many of you will probably be either studying at Leaving Cert level or you'll be doing maybe a QQI. Most of those Leaving Cert, the Leaving Cert is at level 5 as well as QQI, and the Leaving Cert applied is level 4. But if you're studying at level 5 at the moment, the next step then is to higher certificate. You'll see I've mentioned that there. A higher certificate is a 2-year qualification. Then you can move on to an ordinary bachelor degree, which is a 3-year qualification, and then your honours bachelor degree, which is a 4-year qualification for the most part. There are some 3-year honour bachelor's degree, but for the most part, it is 4 years. And then you can move on to postgraduate, of course, after that. But today we're working away solely on undergraduate and entry to this arts programme. So just going to identify some of the big technological universities in the world. And I suppose what we want to showcase here is the fact that your award in TU Dublin will be recognised internationally because technological universities are very well recognised internationally. You can see some of the big universities abroad, of course, in areas like Nanjing, University of Ontario, and probably one of the most famous ones down there on the left is MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So your qualification from TU Dublin will be internationally recognised. Just in terms of TU Dublin itself and where we're based, TU Dublin is based across 5 locations in Dublin. Okay, so we're based in Ainger Street, Blanchestown, Bolton Street. We are also then based in Grangegorman. And guys, just so that you're aware, Grangegorman, not to be confused with Gormanstown. I know some people tend to get them confused. Grangegorman is in Dublin 7, and it's about maybe 1.5 kilometres walk to the city centre from the Grangegorman campus. So it's very, very centrally located in Dublin 7. We're kind of tucked in between Smithfield and Phibsborough and the city centre. And then, of course, our Tallaght location. So these are the discipline areas that we offer, and we're excited that we're actually adding a new discipline to the university this year. We're starting with 13 disciplines rather than 12. So arts is joining as a full discipline this year. So these are the areas that we offer. Architecture and built environment. We offer in the area of business, computing, data and mathematics, the creative arts, design and media, culinary, hospitality and tourism, engineering being our biggest discipline. Then we have law, languages, music and drama, sciences and health, social sciences and early childhood care and education. Sports and leisure is also in there, and arts. And behind each one of those discipline areas, we have a large number of different programs for you to investigate and to find out more about. So you can find more detail on our website about those. But of course, we're excited to present our new arts discipline. And just so that you're aware, TU Dublin is a very significant university. Again, we get the highest number of CAO mentions of any university or college in Ireland, and we have the second highest number of individual applicants in the country to us. So TU Dublin is a hugely popular university with a lot of students coming to us. Approximately 6,500 students came into first year with us last year. And, you know, that's about 1,000 more than the next biggest university at undergraduate level. So we are really, really specialised in the area of undergraduate education. We have a very high staff to student ratio in the university, which means students get a lot of attention and assistance, and it works really well for students coming in to university. So that's just a very brief insight to TU Dublin and who we are. Obviously, we've a lot of other services, we've a lot of societies, sports, etc., and we could talk a little bit about those later. But this webinar is really about our new exciting venture in the area of art. So I'm going to welcome Orla McDonough, and Orla is going to talk to you a little bit more about that. So Orla, if you'd like to take over there.
Thanks, Linda. And Paul's going to share the arts presentation. Good evening, everyone. It's really exciting to be able to talk to you about this arts program. We have been developing this for the last 4 years, and there isn't really another arts program in Ireland like it. It's essentially a program that we designed because we felt that there needed to be another option in the Irish market in terms of students looking for a little bit more choice, a little bit more self-direction in terms of how they approach their third level education. So Paul, if it's okay, I might ask you if you could put that into slideshow. Is that feasible? Just so it's a little bigger. Yeah. It might just be taking his time to come through on mine. There we go. See that? We can Great. Indeed. Yeah, at least I can. Yeah. Okay, so we might just go to the second slide. So really, what makes this program different? A lot of programs, obviously, where you are choosing a program on the CAO, it forces you to choose your subject area that you're going to study before you arrive in university. And then in arts program offerings around the country, you know, you get a little bit of time to choose. But what we really wanted to do was allow students a significant period of time to explore classes and disciplines across TU Dublin before committing and confirming your final major subject area. So you've up to 18 months to do that while you're exploring different kinds of classes, and all those classes that you've taken will count as part of the degree, as I will share with you as we go through the structure of it. So it really gives you a lot of time to figure out, you know, what you are interested in as you come and make that transition from school into a university. A lot of critical thinking, communication, teamwork skills in this, so it's creative and practical. Of course, TU Dublin is a big practice-led university, so we really have a lot of real-world learning in our disciplines across the university, and you'll see that represented in the classes. Linda has already mentioned we have, you know, small class sizes in TU Dublin. So in this arts program, you won't be sitting in lecture halls with 400 students in undergrad in the class. The class sizes will be smaller, and I think the largest class size we have might be, you know, in the university about 100 students, but most of the classes that we have in this program would be around the size of 30, etc. And indeed, in some of the practical classes, depending on the discipline, it would be even smaller than that, because the labs would be small. For example, if you are in studying in our wonderful culinary arts and food technology school, and you're in a kitchen environment, then there's 16 people in that class because there's 16 stations. And that's true dependent on, you know, what particular practice-led class you're taking. The one-to-one advisory support is a really unique feature. So if you're going to have a lot of flexibility in this degree, you need support in terms of, you know, how you're managing your progress through it. So there's a two-step structure to this. You'll have an academic advisor who's a lecturer, who will meet with you for a half an hour once each semester, so 2 sessions per year of the program. And that academic advisor will, you know, be able to answer any questions you have, be able to, you know, help advise you on, you know, which path you might take throughout the degree, depending on your experience in it and the skills that you feel you have. So that's a really important piece of this, that you're not on your own dealing with having to choose different things as you move through the degree. And then there's also going to be an advising office as well, which you can also set up appointments in, and they'll serve as a really good space to be able to get advice and to manage the different aspects of the programme. And then, of course, we have a lot of opportunities in TU Dublin to study abroad through the Erasmus programs, a lot of collaborations with other universities all around the world. So there's an opportunity in the space we've designed in the degree to be able to take advantage of that if you would like to do so. So we might move on, Paul, to the next slide. So really, who is this for? If you're interested in studying a lot of different disciplines, if you want more choice and flexibility, if you want a bit of time before you decide what you're going to commit to as your main subject for your undergraduate degree, all of these things are feasible through this type of arts program. And obviously, we're all living in an age where, you know, AI and robotics and the technology that is advancing rapidly is changing the careers that we would know. So people who have a multiplicity of skills, the ability to, you know, operate in different disciplines, who are used to change and who have the resilience that comes from change, those are the types of transferable skills that you will gain through a degree like this, that will in some ways be future-proofing you against the developments that are happening in society and in industry, you know, when you're out post your undergraduate study looking for work. And it's an ideal foundation for postgraduate study as well, if you decide to stay on and do a master's or a PhD while you're following your college track. At the bottom there's a lot of different areas where graduates from these types of arts programs end up. So the list is there. I won't read them out for you, but we engaged with a lot of industry talent managers who are essentially the hiring officers for their corporates. And what most of them said was really interesting as we were kind of designing this degree. We wanted their feedback. And their perspective was that the types of areas of their businesses that arts students tend to find a home in terms of a job are a lot of the time in the corporate services area, which for a lot of large companies is about 40% of the actual jobs that they have. So, for example, you know, if you're talking about a company like Intel, well, they'll have a need to hire an engineer, but they'll also have a need to hire people who work in the corporate services part of that company. So there's a lot of different things that students will be able to do when they come out of this degree. So we might go on, Paul. This now, next stage, will give you a little idea about how it is structured. So there's 3 parts. There's a core curriculum. There's your choice of major subject streams, and then there's a choice also of electives or minor streams. But 90% of the program will be chosen by the student. And so there's a lot of potential in here to be able to individualize your journey through this degree with the support of the advising team, as I mentioned earlier. So we might take a look at that core curriculum. So in it, there are 5 compulsory modules, and you can see them there on the left of the slide. These are the modules where all of the students on the arts program will be in classes together. And you can see there that they are going to be one class per semester in your first 2 years, and then a break in third year to allow people to do Erasmus. And then coming back in fourth year to look at technology and society for that first semester. The purpose of these modules is to really think about the big ideas that the world is dealing with at the moment. We are a technological university, so when we're looking at considering the big ideas and how to evaluate how you're experiencing the world, how the world is changing around us, how we imagine the future of the world, we're going to look at it through these different perspectives: mind, body, and technology. How we have imagined technology as a human race, what we imagine technology would be now 100 years ago, or what we might imagine technology will look like and the world will look like 100 years from now. Bit of memory and technology, what's happening to our collective memory around how technology is advancing. The sites of industrial ecology is a class. It's going to be really interesting. It's site visit based, and it's about how do nations build their national identity around big infrastructure projects, like, let's say, the supercomputing that the countries might be investing in at the moment, and just all of the issues philosophically, ethically, around that, civically, around those things. And then technology and society is really exciting. In that fourth year, we have a professor in technology and society who will be teaching that class. It was really important to us that undergraduates would have access to a very high level professor who's doing cutting edge research in technology and society. So that's the compulsory set of modules. There are 8 subject areas you'll see on the right hand side. And under each of those, there'll be a list of different modules throughout the university that would meet the actual subject area. So for example, looking at that, you can see health, wellness and sport is one of those subject areas. So there'll be a list underneath that of classes, and you would choose one of them, and that would meet your health, wellness and sport requirement underneath the general education there in the core curriculum. So we might show you an example of that next on the next page. So one of those subject areas is creativity.
Paul, just to cut across you for 1 second, apologies. Technology and society module, my fault there. It should be semester 1 and 4th year. So just in case of confusion,
fourth year.
That module is in 4th year. Sorry, it's showing 1st year. So apologies.
That's okay. We'll amend that, and I'm sure we can include that, with the presentation in the chat as well. So. Thanks, Paul, for that. So then creativity. So this is just an example of some of the classes. There's a lot more under the creativity list that you might end up kind of looking at if you were looking at creativity. There'll be things here as well. Some of our schools that do a lot of creative courses, the Conservatoire, School of Media, the business faculty, etc., are adding to this as we go through this semester to finalize all of the options before students start in September. But it gives you an idea that, there'll be a list of modules that will meet the creativity learning outcomes that we want to have, and then you have options underneath it. So that's the core curriculum. We might move on then to the major and minor streams. So your major stream is your main subject area in the degree, and it will be mandatory to complete a major stream. So there's an application process for that, essentially to confirm that major stream by latest about, March of your 4th semester. So your 2nd semester, your 2nd year. It gives you a year and a half to explore your options. You can start, if you know what you want to do in terms of your major when you're on your way in that very first advising session, you'll get advice about how to start that immediately if you'd like. But it also gives you time if you start a major stream and then you decide after a semester or so, do you know what, this isn't really exactly what I thought I would be interested in. And in fact, I have taken a class somewhere else and I really think the other discipline appeals. Then you would be able to still have time to start a different major, even in the beginning of your 2nd year. So that gives you that time to explore. And currently we have 23 approved major streams. We will continue to add to this over the years of the degree to really take advantage of the diversity of TU Dublin. But for right now, we have 23, and we'll show you that list. Minor streams or free electives is the other part. So the rest of the degree outside of your major and your general core curriculum is free electives. So you could take classes in anything that you like, that is available and that works with your timetable that semester, and they're on the free electives list. Now, if you'd like to bunch some of those together into a minor stream basically is about 40 credits, whereas a major stream is anywhere from 80 to 120 credits. So a minor stream gives you a little bit of a different subspecialty in addition to a major stream. But again, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. Sometimes you find in degrees like this that students will be really creative in how they organize their timetable. And in some cases, it works out that you can do a major and maybe 2 minors if it works out with the free elective choice. So that's where the advising process is really important in terms of planning your way through the degree. So you can see there at the bottom of that page, you can either do 80 credits of free electives, or you can do 1 minor of 40 electives, or if the timetabling works out, 2 minors. So it gives you some flexibility in terms of subject mixing and matching. So we might move on, Paul, then to the list of major and minor streams as it stands currently. So you'll see there on the left-hand side that the major streams have a lot of range in them. There are major streams coming out of the Faculty of Arts and Humanities, coming out of the Faculty of Business, coming out of the Faculty of Computing, Digital and Data, and I believe also one coming out of the Faculty of Engineering and Built Environment. But we are continuing to explore and validate different majors for this degree. So that's what definitely will be on offer from September. But it's a question as well of watching this space. The minor streams there are the middle and right column. And again, it's just an example of the minor streams that are approved so far. But you can see a wide range of different types of minors depending on what people might be interested in or not. So we might move on then just to talk a little bit about how this advising and support will work. So as I said, students will have access both to an academic lecturer as their academic advisor and also the advising office. So you'll receive formal and informal advice throughout the 4 years of this program. So during orientation and induction at the beginning of each year, there will be formal advising sessions. You will have 2 30-minute advising sessions with the academic advisor, 1 before each registration period. And you can have advising office appointments upon request if you need more. And obviously we'll be providing a lot of information on the website. And then there will be a number of ongoing events for students on this program that are arranged throughout the academic year that we feel will kind of enhance the experience that the students are having throughout the degree. So there'll be a lot of touch points for people to be able to connect in and find whatever answers or advice they may be looking for. So then just to give you a quick sense of the other things besides what's in class and besides what's in maybe an office or an advising appointment, just to give you an idea, TU Dublin has a huge amount of social and sporting activities that happens throughout the year. I chair the Student Life Council at the moment, and it's really fabulous to see the activities students are involved in beyond the classroom. So you can just see a couple of numbers there in relation to the sports clubs, societies, gyms, volunteering, student life memberships, etc. And Paul, I might ask you to go on to the next page if you don't mind, just to give people a sense as well. I mean, there's student life festivals that happen. There's more than 2,000 events each year that students can become involved in. And then, you know, we have sports facilities, you know, that provided in each of the major campuses. Although the Grange Gorman sports facility also then uses an awful lot of, you know, gyms, etc., studios throughout the city centre as well to supplement. I should say before we finish, and then we might move to the next slide, which is really the last slide before Q&A. That's where our arts microsite is, and I know a live link will be popped into the chat for that. We are so excited to welcome students in September. This has been a degree long in the planning, and I think, you know, the real advantage of it is the individual attention that students are going to receive in this first year, particularly as we really work to ensure that the options that are available are as clear as possible, that students have access to all the information that they need. One thing about this is that at the moment, what we are doing is we are offering this degree in the city campuses of the university. So it'll be offered in locations in Grangegorman and Ainger Street for the most part. So I'll close there really in terms of the presentation that I have. Maybe Paul, we can unshare, and I see Linda has put something in about the chat being open for questions, and I'm going to hand it back to Linda.
Yeah, sure. So we've just opened the chat there now for questions. So if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask, but I think you guys can have a little bit of a think about the questions that you might have for the team here. But we just have one or two there that we'll go ahead and ask anyway. So maybe I'll come to you, Hugh, on this one. So what type of student do you think will be interested in this program, Hugh?
Well, I think there's something for everybody. To be honest with you, I think typically this will appeal to students who are undecided about what they want to study, which is quite a lot. And I think certainly from my own experience, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I found out along the way. And luckily, I was in a course that I enjoyed. But that's not the same for everybody. And in my experiences as a head of school, I've noticed students really figure out, after a year or two, they get a greater sense of what they would like to do and what they don't like to do. So, to be able to have a program which can allow you that time, because moving from the Leaving Cert 3 months into college, it's a completely different mode of thinking. And I've had friends whose children are in this, and they get into college, and all of a sudden it's a completely different environment. They've had time to really think about things, even after 6 months, and sometimes it's nearly too late for them. So in this course, you'll have 18 months.
Yeah, and I think it's very true, Hugh, particularly in the area where I work, the amount of students that are very undecided and don't have that opportunity to kind of divert halfway through. And I suppose that's the real beauty of this program, that they have that academic advisor as well there to kind of guide them and to build something that suits them. It's like a tailored outfit, is really going to suit them. And, if it needs to be tweaked a little bit, well, then that's absolutely fine. So I think a lot of students will really enjoy the part, or the flexibility part, because certainly in my role as a school liaison and talking to guidance counsellors the whole time, that's one of the things that students are really worried about. Are they going to like it? And, are they going to be stuck with, with no other option? So I think, it's nice.
In college, I think unless you are absolutely clear about what you want to do going in, it's really important that you enjoy college. I mean, that's the most important thing. It can't be stressful. And even if it's with a degree, most people now coming into college, they will change careers 7 or 8 times in their life. This wasn't the case when I was a student. You might change a job twice, or in my case, not at all, because I came in as a student and stayed. But the graduates, the Leaving Cert students coming in now will have to pivot many times in their career. So that's another aspect of the program, that ability to change your mind, to move in a different direction, take up a different subject, but enjoy yourself. And then move on to the next thing after college. That's equally as important as being the scientist or the computer scientist or whatever. So that's an important thing to remember as well. You're not going to figure everything out in the first year.
And I think there's a lot of, like, the general education will suit a lot of the students as well, like just with some of the really interesting pieces. And as you said, Orla, like one of the modules is actually a trip where they go to, an outing where they go to kind of discover that. I mean, it's about more kind of general learning. There's lots of different ways to learn in this degree. Would you agree there, Orla?
Absolutely. I mean, people have different learning styles. And I think that's one of the things that we do really well, because in TU Dublin generally, there is a mix of theory and practice, and there's so many different types of practical delivery and a lot of project work and teamwork and the kinds. It's really trying to, we've great connections with the industry in particular, and it's really trying to replicate on some level what students and future employees will end up doing when they actually head out into the world, So I think that's, you're not sitting in a kind of a class where it's only theory and practice in a discipline and there's no connection to the reality of what that's like. And so I think that's a really good thing about the degree, So
yeah. I'm going to take the next question here just in relation to the points and minimum entry requirements, because I was positive that we would be asked this anyway. But I suppose in terms of the minimum entry requirements, the minimum entry requirements for the programme are 6 subjects, 2 H5s, okay? The maths is 06 H7 and the English is 06 H7. So we also accept any award from QQI with 3 distinctions, okay? So the minimum entry requirements are realistically passes in your maths and your English and your Irish. And then in relation to the points, because it hasn't, the program actually hasn't gone out there yet, we won't know the points until the final hour when, we do an analysis. Points are based on popularity and competition. So the more people that apply to the program, the higher the points will be. And obviously, if you have a lot of places, your points won't be as high. But if you have a smaller number of places, this does push the points up. So it's all about competition. We have 60 places on the programme this year, and I think that might address maybe one of the questions a little bit further down, which I might address to you, Orla, in just a moment. But we've 60 places on the course. They are our minimum entry requirements, but we will not be able to gauge what the points will be until basically we're making the CAO offers, guys. So if this is your dream course, guys, regardless of whether you think you'll get the points, you won't get the points, loads of people will apply, you can't surmise anything. If it's your dream course, you put it in the #1 spot on your CAO form. You can do it today if you want to, just in advance of it being closed. But if this is the course that you want to do, you put it on your CAO form, because no new programs that are being introduced ever have points, and we never know what points are going to be. But my advice would always be, and I'll show you a slide in just a minute on how to fill out your CAO form. You put your dream courses in position 1, 2, and 3. 4, 5, and 6 are where your courses where you feel you're pretty competent in and you're likely to get, and then your bankers go at the end in 7, 8, 9, and 10. So definitely think about structuring your CAO form like this. And if this is the course that you want and you feel that you'll get those minimum entry requirements, which you should do, they're passes. Make sure, guys, that you put it in the #1 position, and later on you'll see if you will get it. But that brings me to my question, Orla, and also about the 60 places that we have. We have a question here from Louise, and she's saying, this being a brand new course, it's bound to have a few teething issues that have not yet been considered, and the concern is that a new student on a new course are taking a risk by choosing this course. But I suppose that's one of the reasons why we've decided to keep our numbers low for the first year, so that we can really manage and look after our students very well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and I would say, what's interesting about this course is, apart from those 5 compulsory modules, students will be sitting in classes of the disciplines across the Faculty of Arts and Humanities and the rest of the university where those disciplines are offered. And, our schools in TU Dublin go back, at least 135 years. So we have well over a century of experience in delivering excellent quality disciplinary courses to students. So in terms of teething problems from the delivery of the classes, that shouldn't be an issue. It is always tricky with a new student, new course, to know, because on the ground the anecdotal information about, is that an interesting course, does it run well, none of that is actually out there. But as a university, we are incredibly creative and practical about how we run things. But we also, in this early stage, and the advantage of being part of this as a student in the early stages is that the experience of the students that we have in on this course in the first 3-4 years of its existence will hugely inform and shape what we do with the course as it moves forward. And that's always a benefit, because it means that your feedback is being listened to in real time. And the course is agile. We're going to, be watching that and really honing in on it as we move forward. We actually initially had planned to take in 100 students on the course, but Linda's right. For this first year, we've reduced that intake to 60, just to make sure we have enough, a smaller number, to make sure we have enough individual time to make sure each student who is part of that initial cohort has enough time and attention, as it is brand new.
Or on that, actually, when I saw Louise's question, I smiled, because I have had experience of starting 2 what we would call ab initio degrees, which are brand new CEO degrees. And this is the question gets asked all the time: are we going to be guinea pigs? The advantage of being the first year, of course there'll be teething issues, there's no question, is there'll be so many people paying attention to the first cohort. You'll never have as much eyes on you as you will in next year or the year after or 20 years, right? Where it's just rinse and repeat. So yes, there'll be teething issues, but there'll be lots of people looking to fix them really, really quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So we'll move along then to, we have another question there. Somebody who wants to study arts degree, politics and law. Can you specify what kind of major I can take, because I'm struggling to understand that? So I'm not sure that we have the politics and law within the majors there, Orla. Is that right?
Not yet. No, we don't. And so, I mean, if you want to study politics and law at the moment in an undergrad, this would not be the degree for you. Now, if you were looking to try it, we do have, courses in law, obviously, that are specifically there at undergraduate level. So if you're interested in that, that's definitely a direction. In terms of politics, there is actually a kind of a journalism and politics course at master's level. But, in terms of thinking about this degree with the subject choices you might choose to go on and do other things at master's level, there are some majors like economics, for example, which can be a good lead into some things. But just in the case of that question, if you're looking for a 2-subject combination of politics and law for next year, then I would not advise this in that case.
That's not available currently. No, and I see somebody there, can I do economics if I haven't done business in my leaving cert? You can, of course, guys. So just to remember, with TU Dublin, predominantly our minimum entry requirements to programs in the university are maths, English or Irish, okay, for the most part. For some programs in the area of science, we will require a science subject, and that's clearly marked on the course page. And then for programs that may have a high level language in it, such as international business and language, we will require a language. But predominantly for subjects across the university, you need to come in with your maths, English or Irish. Our business programs, for example, do not have a requirement to have studied business at leaving cert. Okay, so if you're coming into an economics program in TU Dublin, you are starting from scratch and you don't need to have studied business. So you can come into this program, do your economics major, do some extra minors, build your program around your economics major. I think that major is going to be really popular, actually, Orla, to be honest. The economics, I think students will be very interested in that.
Absolutely. I mean, if there's other things as well that people are interested in that are on the free electives that kind of can surround that, you can always add to that. That's the value of this. You can add other courses within the business area that are part of the free electives list, so.
Yeah, by all means. So just then I'll move along. What else do I have here? So I have, is media studies a good major for someone looking to pursue a career in journalism?
So I can answer that.
Yes,
I used to be the head. I used to be the head of school of media. So this media major was designed. If you look at it compared to the other ones, it offers quite a lot. Because within the School of Media, we've lots of crossover between film broadcasting, journalism, photography, game design, and creative digital media. So the decision of the school was to open up a lot of these so that students could naturally pick the ones that they felt suited them. There are obviously some core modules in there, which are like, media theory and things like that. But out of all of them, there's only about maybe 30 of the 80 credits are mandatory that you have to do, and these are grounding that all of our media students do. But yeah, absolutely you could. And then what I would do, if you really wanted to double down on media, you take a minor in media as well. So you could augment that with another aspect of it. So yeah, it's a very open major, the media one, for sure.
Yeah, and actually I skipped somebody there by mistake, so apologies there. I have a student there who's asking in relation to studying mathematics. So basically he's saying he wants to do a degree in TU Dublin, potentially the maths degree, which is also offered as a major in the arts degree. And is there any disadvantage in terms of the qualification at the end? So again, probably Orla, realistically, there'd be no disadvantage in my eyes. It would just mean that you've done some slightly different modules, and across the duration of your degree. But you can maybe talk a little bit about awards, Orla.
Sure. I mean, so the undergraduate awards you get at the end in this would be a Bachelor of Arts in whatever the maths major title, mathematics. Whereas in the straight up maths degree, the title might be, I don't know actually because it's not in my faculty, is it a BSc?
I think it's a Bachelor of Science.
Bachelor of Science in Mathematics. And the main difference is that, you'd be focusing entirely on mathematics in the BSc if you're studying straight the full degree in mathematics. Whereas if you're studying the maths major in this degree, you have the opportunity of adding other disciplinary aspects to it. And I suppose disadvantage from an undergraduate qualification, there's no difference. It's a level 8 qualification at the end, but it depends on what you want to do next. And that's the thing that actually is the most important thing to think about. If you are looking at going, and if you're sure you want to be in a career that absolutely mandates a full undergraduate degree in mathematics, and sometimes there are specific careers that would mandate that, not too many of them, but you might know them if you're already thinking about maths. Then the thing to do would be to do the BSc in maths. But if you want to be able to go into something which requires a very good grounding in maths, and then also other skills to give yourself more options as you move through your post-undergraduate life, then the major would give you the option of that. And remember, as Hugh said in relation to media, you can augment you don't just have to do the maths major. You could also add, if you found some other maths classes you really liked that you'd wanted to take, you could add those as free electives.
Yeah. Or on that, I remember a meeting with the head of school, and he was explaining to us this degree, if you remember, 2 years ago. He was saying that this major is going to introduce students to the sort of the 4 or 5 core branches of maths.
Yes.
Okay. So whereas a full math students might specialize in some of them, within the major you're going to get exposed to the main core branches to give you a grounding in maths. And obviously then they would look at that as an opportunity for somebody going on to do a master's or something like that afterwards. But I seem to remember that's what he was talking about. And isn't there a replacement in one of the versions of those maths, I think, majors? I'm not was there? Oh no, I think we were looking at replacement.
At the moment, no view. That may come on stream later, but right now, no.
Yeah.
So the reality is they're just different qualifications at the end, but there's no disadvantage really. It depends more or less on what you want to do yourself, as opposed to you being disadvantaged. So we just have another question there from a student about asking, will this course require a portfolio beforehand, or is it strictly based on points? So as far as I know, none of our majors need a portfolio or anything like that for entry at the moment. Is
Linda,
that the
sorry,
case?
I just got across you there. Sorry, this is the contemporary art practice major. There is actually a requirement for portfolio for the 4 modules there.
Okay.
But just to explain that is that, and this probably just amplifies one of the points about how the major will work. Because if you come in first year and this is one of the majors that you're thinking you might be doing, and I'm assuming most students will be looking at 2 or 3 options, what you can do is you can basically, if you like, look at starting your modules in sort of the sequence that you want, and your advisor will help you to work with this. So, for example, if you're looking at that contemporary art practice one, you could wait until later on in first year, for example, to like compile the portfolio, and the exact details of the portfolio need to be worked out. And I don't think they're going to be all that onerous. So there'll be time to actually, and space to actually, if you like, deal with that before you need to get to it. So again, if somebody's interested in that, I don't think I'll get too worried about the fact that there is a requirement for a portfolio to be put in place.
You basically do your portfolio when you're in college.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if you want to, if you need portfolio, you can do it in college. Great. So we've one there just on about the music performance. So for the music performance studies major, what would be the requirements needed? Could someone not doing Leaving Cert music but still having experience in playing an instrument apply?
Well, I could probably answer that because I'm a musician and I used to be head of the conservatoire. So yeah, it depends. So the music performance studies major, there you would need to do an audition at some point, not necessarily before you come into TU Dublin, but at some point during that first year if you were heading that direction. Now, if you've been playing an instrument for a long time, the music performance that's here is it's classical, it's jazz, it's trad, and we also have a kind of a rock and pop degree connection as well, although that's not in a major yet, but I think will come on stream at some point. So basically, the only things that you might end up having to do in the major, in addition to your performance, would be some theoretical classes, maybe some musicianship. And if you haven't done that yet, you know, if you come in through the trad route, that would be very similar to the undergrads who come in straight onto the Bachelor of Music degree with a trad background. And so there are classes that would be at the level that you would need to catch you up in that area. So that's the way that would work. I see another question there just straight underneath. What is meant by the major course music performance and music composition? So there are options in there around the you know, which direction you're going to travel. So there will be similar to what Hugh said about the media major, where there's some kind of core modules that everybody would take. Then you, depending on what your specialty and your interest in and your talent, you know, lends to, you know, you'd be advised along that process as to whether or not you want to focus in performance as part of that major, or whether you want to focus in composition and write music as opposed to be evaluated in your major on performance. So, and that would mimic the undergraduate Bachelor of Music options as well. So
excellent. So then we have another question here. Is there a lot of project work in the course? Maybe Paul, you could take that one first, or Hugh?
Yeah, just to expand on that, you're likely to have you know, 6 modules in each semester, okay? Mm-hmm. And each of those modules will have an assessment component. Continuous assessment is project work, which is done during the year, maybe handed in at the end of the year. That we do have some subjects have exams, not a huge amount, but most of the assignment work is done throughout the year. So you would have an assignment component for each module.
Yeah. We actually have a really good question there, and I'm glad this came up. Kevin is asking, adding on from what we've been discussing there, what differentiates the major and the minor music choices? So what's the key difference, I suppose, so that people will understand them?
So are the lists of those on the microsite?
Mm-hmm. They are on the microsite.
They are on the microsite. So Kevin, the first thing I would say is definitely, you know, go and take a look at the individual modules and the under majors and minors that are on the microsite. That'll be really, really helpful. But I suppose within most of the minors are kind of structured to give people a flavor of what a particular subdiscipline area might be. And over the years, I think we'll add to this so that students have the opportunity to have minors in, you know, performing in the various ensembles we have, whether that's the orchestra or the choirs or the trad ensemble, whatever it is. But also there's the opportunity to take some classes within that minor that are not purely performance based. Mm-hmm. So I think if you look there, you'll find a little bit more info. Hugh, do you want to answer?
Yeah, it basically it's for those. The minor in music is really for those who probably don't want to go in deeper into their music. There's history of music, foundations of musical theory, introduction to Irish trad music, you know, composition studies, ensemble, you know, that type of stuff. So it's if you're interested in music and you want to understand a bit music generally and the history of it, then that's a minor you could take in addition to other minors, as opposed to actually the performance or the performance majors.
Yeah, and I suppose it's the credit element of it as well, so that the students understand. I mean, a general major is it's 80 to 120 credits, isn't that correct? Whereas a minor is about 10. So you're talking
minor 40.
40, sorry, 40.
Yeah.
So 40. So you can imagine then that if you're working on a 40 credit, whereas a major is 80 to 100, that it's potentially half or a third of a major, just in terms of the depth that you'll go into. But you're building, each year, your full degree is 240, so you're doing 60 credits each year as part of your degree. So you might be doing maybe 10 credits one year, 10 credits the next year, etc. But they're smaller, I suppose.
They are. And I mean, it's, there's you still have your free elective choices. So if you find something in a minor and you really like it, what we anticipate might happen actually is that, somebody's doing an 80 credit major, they might end up finding a minor where they want to add a few extra credits, and if it's available to them and the timetabling works, then that works. So I mean, Kevin, really in relation to that, the minor, I think there's quite a bit of choice in that music minor as well. So it's not necessarily here are the 4 classes you have to take. There's a little bit of choice in it to see how you might construct those 40 credits essentially. So
fantastic. So I think we have more or less covered the majority of the questions there. I have, is it possible to spread the course over more than 4 years by taking fewer credits per year?
Well, that's more of a question around how we do that for all programs in the university. And it's kind of a part-time versus full-time undergraduate question. At the moment, this is being run or being offered and designed as a 4-year full-time. But, that's kind of a greater question for us as a university. It does impact, I think, the funding, certain funding streams that students get. There's a ripple effect there. And so I think students would need to be aware of that. But for the moment, this is 4-year full-time. But certainly we're looking at part-time options. We'll take a look at that and see over the years if it's something we add. There's one other question, Linda, as well, that I think was early on, and it was from Misha. How many opportunities will we have to change our minor focus? And Misha, it kind of depends on you. It's you don't have to do a minor, at all. You can just take free elective classes. So if you start in a minor area and it doesn't really kind of float your boat after the first class, it doesn't have to become a minor, you can just count it as one of your free elective classes and then move on and try something else. So that part works quite flexibly.
The answer to that question is lots of opportunities to actually change focus. That's, I think, one of the critical things about this degree. This is what we're trying to give you, that flexibility.
The flexibility. Is there an option to transfer from this course to another TU Dublin course? And I'm going to address that one to you, Hugh, if you don't mind.
The answer is no. We don't allow internal transfers. It was often something in media we would deal with quite a bit. People who've come into journalism want to do film, and the university doesn't facilitate it as a default. So it's less to do with a program decision. It's more university.
Yeah, it's very difficult to facilitate transfers, actually, particularly in first year. But the idea of this degree is that the student has so much choice anyway that they don't need to move from it, so that they can build their qualification. So if anybody else has a question there that they want to add, if they want to do it now, because we are largely coming to the end of our webinar. Just again, as I have said to you, and I'm just going to see if I can put that slide up for you so that you can have another quick look about filling out your CAO form. I see a question in there on the cost, and I'll address that to you now. So guys, this is the slide that I was talking to you about. So the CAO is not closing now until the 1st of February. So if you want to go in and add this program, by all means, I'll just give you the course code there. It's TU980. So if you want to add that onto your form, by all means do. You can do it now if you want to. It takes literally 2 seconds, so that you don't have to go in and do it again. And by all means, you can change if you want to, but it's just so that you have that on there if you want to do that. Just let me show you that slide, guys, just so that you can remember what we were talking about just a minute ago in terms of putting your choices on there. I'm just going to go on to this. This is the way you will fill out your CAO form. And what I said to you is, if this is the course that you really want to do, you only need to consider the minimum entry requirements and work as hard as you possibly can. Put it up there in your dream courses and, as one of your top 3 or 4, and make sure, but if this is what you really want to do, guys, you have to have it in first position just to make sure that you secure it. Put it down, and then, as I said, you can change by all means, but I definitely would be putting it down just so that you can so that you have it on there and that you remember about it, etc., because it's easy just to log in and do it as quickly as you can. Just in terms of cost for studying at TU Dublin, it's €2,500 per year fees. Okay, so if you haven't attended university previously. If you have attended university previously, there will be add-on fees and that we can discuss separately, and you can find a lot of that detail on our website as well. But a lot of our students apply for grants. Okay, so about over 50% of the students in university have some form of a grant from SUSI. So SUSI is opening very shortly. David's going to put the link in there for SUSI. It's susi.ie. You will be assessed, based on your family's income, and students up to 100, still up to 100,000, they're still offering some part grant. So it's well worth investigating, guys. The way you pay your fees is it's split into 3 payments. You pay $750 initially to come in the door. You pay $750 then at the end of October, and then you pay the balance of that the following January, the 31st of January of the following year. So we're not expecting you to pay it all up front, although you can if you want to. And you don't need a full decision from SUSI to register. You can just come in with your SUSI number and register in the university. And then when you have your decision from them, you can, we can apply it to your account, etc. But I would definitely be looking into that now and start to gather your documents, guys, because obviously, you don't want to be stressed out about that at the last minute. So definitely be looking into that. So I think we've covered everything that's been asked this evening. David is going to put the email address in there for anybody that might have further questions, and we do invite them, because what happens is you'll often walk away and think, oh, I should have asked this. You can email us of admissions. Orla, you want to come in very quickly?
Sorry, just to say there's one question that was in. Sure. Is practical experience required to choose the contemporary art practice major? Okay. And Hugh, can you just check that? I know you probably have the list open. Okay. Just Linda, sorry to interrupt you there, but just that was the last remaining question I saw. Yeah. And I don't think it is, but I could be wrong. That was that contemporary art practice major, Hugh. I think you're on mute, sorry. Still on mute.
He's having trouble.
Oh, I come in there.
Sorry, I just shut down my browser. Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't think there's a requirement ahead of time, certainly, but I was just wondering about practical experience in it. So the majors have been designed to try to be able to facilitate people, as much as possible without needing to have a pre-requirement. But that information, again, will be available in the actual major and minor part of the microsite. So I don't know the name of the person that put that in, but that would be the first place to look as well. Thanks, Linda.
Thank you. So guys, just in terms of the fee that I quoted there, that is for students, EU students. Obviously, then there are alternative fees for students who are coming from outside the EU. So just to clarify that, and that fee is for purely for college fees. Nothing else is within that cost. So there will be extra costs for books and laptops, etc. That's all extra on top of that. So so just to wrap up then, guys, as I said, you can contact us at admissions@tudublin.ie. Again, David's going to put the email address in there. We also have our chat function on every day, so you can chat to us through the chat function you know, when you want to. And obviously this webinar is recorded. It will be published to the microsite and the web page. We will continue to update the microsite with more information as we come towards the summer. But again, if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. So I'd like to thank everybody for attending this evening. And I hope you have a clearer picture on the offering. And thanks very much for attending. Good evening. Thank you.